Hello and good afternoon. Welcome to this webinar. Today we will be discussing the Canadian government funding for the defense sector. You have probably heard lots of announcements over the past few months, and it's really hard to figure out what is actually going on and what specific programs you should apply for. So here we are, helping you out to figure this all out. And I'm happy to present you this subject today. A couple of words to introduce myself. My name is Igor Chigrin. I'm a co-owner of Fair Grant Writing. We are a professional grant writing firm focused on helping Canadian businesses access government funding. We've been in business for over 14 years and helped secure over $90 million for our clients with the high success rate over 90%. But enough talking about us. Let's talk more about you. And uh, I wanted to first of all align on the definitions because when we talk about the defense businesses, defense companies, we may not necessarily talk only about those companies that make goods for defense, like if you are, for example, a munition plant or if you manufacture armored vehicles. In this case, yes, you're 100% in the defense sector, no questions asked. But on the other hand, you don't have to have your entire production or service capacity devoted to the defense sector. So, for example, one of our clients, the aerospace manufacturer in Vaughan, Ontario, they have a portion of their revenue coming from the defense sector, but this is not their mainstream. Yet they qualified as a defense company and successfully secured 8.5 million in interest-free loan. That means you can too. You can do that too, as long as at least a portion of your business is for the defense supply chain, or if you intend to become part of the defense supply chain, you may still qualify for this defense funding. Before we go into the details and dive into the specific government funding programs, I wanted to just explain you that there are three different types of government funding. Government grants, this is also something that everybody knows and everybody likes. These are non-repayable contributions awarded to the companies for the specific purposes. Yes, you don't have to pay this money back. The other option, though, is the government loan, and the government loans are typically interest-free in Canada. They have very flexible repayment terms as well. Tax credits, something that many of you have heard of as well. These are pretty much the grants, but they work retroactively. The traditional government grant requires the application, and then after the application is assessed, uh, you execute upon your project and then you claim the money. So the tax credit is like an opposite. It's the retroactive way of claiming a portion of the costs that you have already incurred. And before we move on, also I wanted you to know that like the government does not helicopter money, unlike many people think. The government funding is only available for the specific purposes such as equipment purchase and skills training, software, R&D, etc. And what I highlighted here in yellow are the specific expenses that the defense funding is focused on. So there currently aren't any specific defense grant or loan or tax credit for hiring or for software or AI. On the other hand, there are dedicated funds for productivity improvement, capacity increase, equipment upgrade, expansion, research and development, etc. And we will be going through those programs shortly. So the first program that I wanted to share with you is the Research and Development Grant from NRC, which is National Research Council of Canada. They recently created a dedicated program for the defense sector called IRAP Defense Industry Assist Program. The way the program works is that once you qualified and applied for the program, and once you are approved, the government reimburses you 80% of the labor cost and up to 50% of the contractor costs and material costs. The IRAP Defense Industry Assist Program is great for cash flow because this is one of the few programs that reimburses the costs on the monthly basis, as opposed to milestone-based reimbursement. So the program is really great for your cash flow. The downside is though that it's not that easy to qualify. First of all, you need to be in business for at least 2 years, and obviously intend to either make some dual use or defense pro goods or develop technologies for dual use or defense. You also have to have at least two full-time employees, and you have to like physically speak to the representative of the National Research Council, convince them in your project, and then after that you can apply for this funding. The other two opportunities that I wanted to highlight are what's called innovation challenges. So innovation challenges aren't really grants per se, but they represent a case of the government procurement of your technology or product potentially for the security and defense sector. There are two programs that are similar design. Innovative Solutions Canada is somewhat more on the civilian side. It does have certain calls for proposal from the public safety agencies. And by the way, both programs work, temporarily. They launch calls for proposals for specific topics for a limited time. You're supposed to apply. And then if you get approved, then in the first case, in case for Innovative Solutions Canada, can get up to $300,000 to support your R&D project with follow-on investment of up to $2 million to acquire your technology. Once you complete your R&D, Innovation for the Defense Excellence and Security, or IDEAS program. It's a similar program, a new one, but it's also the government procurement of your technology or your product. So they basically pay 100% of your expenses, but they are expecting you to develop a certain technology or a product for the defense sector. And the IDEAS program is specifically for the Canadian Armed Forces. So there wouldn't be any civilian government calls for proposals for the technologies. Right now, Innovative Solutions Canada, as of April 2026, does not have any open calls for proposals, and the IDEAS program has one for the drone defense technology. So if you are developing some sort of a drone detection or counter drone technology that Canada could buy, then this program is right for you. They pay up to $1 million to support research and development, and there's a potential follow-on acquisition of the technology for $20 million. The other new dedicated defense R&D program is called Borealis. So this is the acronym for Bureau of Research, Engineering, and Advanced Leadership in Innovation and Science. Long story short, these are large-scale collaborative R&D projects. They are not focused on, say, a particular company developing a technology. They rather look for the consortium application from industry, academia, and government partners. Recently, they had the call for proposal for the unmanned and quantum technology. So there were two different calls for proposals. Right now, there isn't any, but again, this is more this Borealis is more for a large scale collaborative R&D as opposed to the individual R&D done by a specific company. The other program that I wanted to highlight is not necessarily related to the defense sector, but it's available for every Canadian corporation that's engaged in the research and development. It's called Scientific Research and Experimental Development Tax Credit, or SHRED. Pretty well-known program. However, if you haven't heard of this program yet, I encourage you to check it out. Even if you are not in the defense sector, that's still fine. This program is available to support the Canadian R&D across all industry sectors. Now let's move on to the capital expenditures and the government programs to support the CapEx costs, such as equipment, leasehold improvements, construction of facilities, typically available for manufacturers and tech companies. The Regional Defense Investment Initiative is the primary program that supports capital expenditures for expanding defense capabilities, expanding capacities, improving productivity, and improving the output, the quality of the output. This is the interest-free loan program, so it's not a grant. However, this program provides 75% of the project costs, which is one of the highest uh, reimbursements of out there, because usually the grants, previous loans provided maximum 50%. This one provides 75%, so it's great from the reimbursement perspective. You need to have at least 5 employees to apply for this program. However, I've not seen any 5 employee company in the list of approved companies. So this is for larger companies and more mature companies. I'd say if you have less than 15, don't bother with this program unless you make something unique for the defense sector. The program also works regionally, so it is a federal program, federal money, but it is distributed by the regional economic development agencies. Um, in some provinces, just one agency per province, like in Quebec and British Columbia. In Ontario, there are two agencies, one for Southern Ontario, one for Northern Ontario. In prairies, in Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, there's one um, agency for all three programs, etc. So the point is that depending on where you are in Canada, you have to apply through one of these specific agencies to request this funding. And as of now, as of end of April, the program does not accept applications in Southern Ontario, but again, as of the end of April 2026, it accepts applications anywhere else in Canada. The next program that I wanted to highlight is the Canadian Defence Industry Resilience Program. A big disclaimer, this program as of April 2026 does not accept applications, and it doesn't really exist. However, it exists in the budget as a line item, so that means that in a few months we should expect this program to be available. The reason I bring it up because I really do like the way it's described in the budget, and it seems like this program will be specifically designed to help improve production capabilities, increase capacity. So to me, it sounds like it's going to be a program for manufacturing potentially critical mineral sector, helping them with capital expenditures. And it sounds like a grant, not like a loan. And also there are a few other expenses that are eligible, such as skills training. So this is the program again that doesn't exist. So I cannot really tell you exactly how it's going to work, what's going to be the reimbursement percentage, what's going to be the maximum amount. But this is the program to watch. So write it down, follow it, and as soon as this program is available, of course, we'll let everyone know. But keep an eye. Arctic Innovation Fund, sorry, Arctic Infrastructure Fund is another program that I wanted to bring up. This is obviously the infrastructure funding project. So typically the applicants are municipalities, communities, regional governments, indigenous and Inuit governments, First Nations. The point of this program is to improve infrastructure in the northern Canada specifically. And obviously, the expectation is that the infrastructure will be used both civilian and defense personnel if necessarily. Uh, if you are part of the, say, construction business, if you build infrastructure, you may benefit from this program indirectly. You cannot directly apply for the Arctic Infrastructure Fund, but if you have clients in the north that say want to improve ports or airports, roads or rails, so this is the type of projects that qualify for this program. And if you are in this business, in the construction and structure business, you can certainly indirectly benefit from this program. And the program accepts applications, so it's active. And as far as I can see, it will be available for quite a while for applications. The next one I wanted to mention is the Defense Investment Agency. So unlike grants or loans or tax credit opportunities, this is also a government procurement agency. This is the new one that is supposed to replace Public Service and Procurement Canada, which is a civilian agency that handles government procurement. The idea is to streamline the procurement processes. However, we don't expect that this Defense Investment Agency will handle like regular, routine procurement of like everything for the defense. The point of creating this agency is to handle a large project such as the Arctic Over Horizon project, Canadian Patrol Submarine project. So those like high stakes, extremely high budget projects, you may not necessarily benefit directly from this, from the investments or projects handled by the agency, but you need to be aware of what kind of projects they support, because you can plug yourselves into the supply chain. For example, if you are in the electronics business, I'm pretty sure there's lots of parts and components and services that you can provide to the over the horizon radar project, or the submarine project, or any other future projects that this investment agency will invest in. So uh, sign up for the updates of this agency. Be aware of the projects that they are investing into, and you may be able to plug yourselves into one of these projects as a contractor or a delivery partner. The next opportunity is the Defense Security New Zealand's bank. A big disclaimer: so the bank is does not exist yet as of April 2026, but the negotiations to establish this bank are currently underway. This will be an international financial institution funded by Canada and 17 other countries, our allies, and the goal is to mobilize and deploy private sector capital and support collective security, i.e., international security projects. So, uh, watch for the updates and developments uh, of this financial institution, because it will provide long-term, low-cost financing for defense and security sectors. The way we understand that this institution will primarily fund the international defense and security initiatives. So, for example, if you collaborate with another party or research institution, or maybe the defense ministries or departments of other nations, chances are that you will be able to get very reasonable long-term low-cost financing from this institution. So I expect that probably will take another 6 to 12 months to complete all the negotiations, establish the institution, and then most likely it will take another half a year for this institution to start working. But anyway, that's something to watch for, especially if you are in the defense or dual use sector, so, or if you intend to be part of the defense or dual use supply chain. So, unlike the Defense and Security Bank, the Business Development Bank in Canada, the Business Development Bank of Canada already exists, and recently BDC launched their defense banking practice. Primarily, it consists of the dedicated team for financing defense contracts, financing capabilities, modernization, acquisition of technologies, acquisition of equipment, again, all to expand your capacity as the defense supplier or dual use supplier. BDC also offers capital, so venture capital. BDC is probably the largest VC player in Canada, and they also now have created the dedicated fund for the defense and dual use technologies. So if you are developing something of this nature, and if you're at the right stage, then you may benefit from the BDC capital terms. If you're looking for the investor for your technology, and if you're at the right stage, then you definitely can start talking to BDC about potentially investing in your company. They currently are focused on artificial intelligence, quantum robotics, and cybersecurity, but this is moving target, so I'm pretty sure the priorities will evolve over time. The last program that I wanted to highlight for you is not necessarily for the defense sector. It's open to all industry sectors in Canada, as long as you have at least 3 full-time employees and your annual sales are at least 300,000. This is the program that helps Canadian companies expand into new export market. And the good thing about this program is that the government doesn't really tell you which market you should enter to. So if you are developing technology for defense or dual use, and you obviously want to showcase your your company, your product, but especially those defense trade shows, they're very expensive. So this program exactly helps you to offset some costs of the travel, trade shows, marketing, and certain consulting expenses related to entering international markets. They provide 50% of the project budget up to $50,000 maximum. The deadline to apply for this program is May 29th. However, typically this program has 2 to 3 intakes every year. So even if you're late and you haven't applied by May 29th, don't worry. Most likely the next intake will be late summer or in the fall. And before we conclude, a couple of words and advice from our professional grant writing team how to maximize chances of your success applying for government funding. First of all, when you apply for any of the programs, you need to know how they assess the program. And for this, you need to either call the funder or read the guidelines. So every program is different. Some programs care about jobs creations, some programs don't care about job creation at all. They only care about the R&D and what exactly you produce as a technology as a result of your project. But you need to know exactly what are those points, those values that each program wants you to create in order to focus on those values across your application. You also need to know what the deadline is, and based on our 14 plus years of experience, even though the deadline is not a feature of all government funding programs, sometimes the applications are accepted on a rolling basis. It doesn't mean the funding is going to be there forever. Um, Even if there's no deadline, you should apply as soon as possible, just because you never know how much funding is left with a particular program. Uh, Understanding eligibility criteria is also important. And again, use the guideline, the program guideline will be your source for the information. Respecting stacking rule is also important. So stacking refers to the situation when you can use multiple government funding projects for the same, multiple government funding programs for the same project, and you can do that in most cases. However, there is a certain limit of the uh, for the percentage of the costs that you can cover by different government funding programs. Specifically for the defense sector, sometimes it's actually 90%, which is pretty high, because normally it's 50% of your expenses that you can fund through different government programs. But in this case, in the case of defense programs, you can actually go up to 90%, which is extremely good. And then before we conclude this webinar, just a couple of recommendations why you need to act now. So first of all grants are available for a limited time. Even if there's no deadline, that doesn't mean anything. Each government grant program has limited budget, and you're obviously not the only one applying for the government funding. Uh, Moreover, we noticed that in many cases they are awarded on the first come first served basis. So that's why you don't want to delay the application for the government funding, because you don't want uh, to miss out on opportunities and you don't want to get disappointed. And that concludes the formal part of our presentation. Before we move on to the questions and answers, I wanted to highlight a couple of useful free resources that we have on our website. So first of all, we have a free eligibility check form, a very simple one, takes a few seconds to submit. It will ask you some information about your business and your priorities. Then we'll look into your submission, and we'll get back to you with a list of custom custom list of the government funding programs that are available for your business as of today. For more instant service, we have recently launched the AI-powered grant qualification chatbot. That's also available on our website. Um, it will take 3 to 5 minutes for you to talk to the chatbot, but at the end you will see a list of all the government funding programs that are available for your business, so we don't have to wait for us to manually do the check and send you the information. And now we conclude the formal part of this presentation and go to the Q&A. Thank you so much.